This is what I gave you the gift to do, and I know if I put you here, you're going to mold yourself into being what the Atlanta Braves organization wants you to be.
And now, the starting lineup for your Atlanta Braves.
We need to put ourselves in the stand. They cheer you guys on all the time, and you're used to the applause. But how often do we cheer our loved ones on?
Reach out to kids that's some of them less fortunate, some of them don't get the opportunity to experience something like this. So just to give back to the community means so much to us.
We want to put their mind on sports, but we also want to put their mind on life.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another all-new episode of SkyBox. I'm your host, Craig Corbin. Today, SkyBox takes you to the track with Paralympian David Prince to hear about his journey from being a teenage drug dealer to medaling in the 2012 London Paralympic Games. Then, we go to the Atlanta Curling Club to play a few ends and to find out how this winter sport has started gaining popularity in the South. But first, the Firefly Run. This traveling 5K road race with thousands of glowing and costumed runners is a sight to see. We go to AIB's Aria Fiore for more.
Even though the Firefly Run is young, it has proven to be a great success in its first years. We talked to race director Daniel Coe about its growth.
So we actually began in 2010, where our first race had about 300 people, and from there it just kind of blew up. The second year we had 3,400 people, and our third year we went from 3,400 to over 6,000, and not only that, but we expanded to 6 other cities. So this year we have 7 cities, and next year we have about 13 cities. And so within a lifespan of about 2 years, we went from 300 people to over 13 cities with over 20,000 people total.
Daniel answers the question, why the lights?
Yeah, so this race is basically we're trying to mimic just this firefly effect. We have just runners with suited up with LED lights, and when they first started out and when they race through the night, it's just this effect of fireflies going through the night, and so that's kind of why we named it the Firefly Run.
The Firefly Run isn't just an excuse to look like a giant lightning bug. The proceeds from the race benefit a great cause.
So this year we had the privilege of supporting American Red Cross. We're basically we're working with them in Atlanta, and we're just giving them proceeds from our race. We're having them out here as part of our costume contest, so they're going to be judging for the costume contest as well.
Rabia Walker of the American Red Cross tells us more about their involvement with the Firefly Run.
Well, it's an awesome event, and of course we're helping those who have been affected by a disaster in Metro Atlanta. We provide those who have been affected by house fires, flooding, tornado damage, storm damage. We provide them food, clothing, lodging. We provide emergency aid. So of course this funding helps us to be able to do that. So this partnership is great. We appreciate the Firefly Run for letting us come in and providing the opportunities for us to be present.
If you'd like to get more information about the Red Cross of Metro Atlanta,
you can contact us at 404-876-3302. You can also visit our website at www.atlantaredcross.org.
We spoke to runner Michelle Hall, who valued this aspect of the race as well.
It benefits a good cause, the American Red Cross, so only reason that I signed up was because of that.
Every day, more and more people are getting up and exercising to improve their health and overall well-being. We spoke to runner Uma Papachan to find out why she wanted to run the Firefly.
I came here because my husband booked the race online, and recently we've been going for hikes around Atlanta, and I've been persuading him to do that for like a couple of years, and finally he pulled his butt out of the potato couch, and he finally did it, and he's been getting more and more active, and along with Tim as well. We've been doing it for I think about the last 2-3 months, and this is actually our first big event in Atlanta. So it's been fun. I mean, I've never done this before. So, everybody's dressed up, everybody's having fun, and the weather is really beautiful today. And it's really good. I mean, you see people all dressed up with all their shiny bits and glow sticks, and then they're dressed in costumes with their tutu outfit. They got kids, they got family, everybody's having a good time.
Uma reminds us that running isn't just for your body and explains how her faith as a Hindu woman plays a role in staying active and staying fit.
Well, how shall I put this? Well, it doesn't matter whether, I'm not sure whether race, religion has got to do with it, but, when you're healthy, you have a healthy mind, and you have a healthy heart, and then you think about God as well, and God always tells you to eat healthy, be well, and of course, as a Hindu, we've got the yoga thing going, and, and it's very popular here in the West now, and of course, yoga always encourages you to be healthy, to eat properly, because whenever you're doing yoga, you're stretching, you're doing well. And when you're doing yoga, you're doing any form of exercise, it always creates a good health, good digestion, good heart, and of course your blood pressure will drop too. So, you're doing well, basically, heart and mind and soul.
While exercise is a great way to keep yourself balanced, many people have found benefits from incorporating physical activity into their worship. Catherine Cavazos, pastor of Kirkwood Presbyterian Church, explains.
I'm here with my clergy group, and we just wanted to come out and have some fun. We do a variety of exercises for Sabbath, some athletics, some cultural, some sports, and so we decided to spend this time doing this race.
This pastor offers a variety of options to her parishioners, including getting up and getting active.
I always offer it to people, if they want to go out and take a walk, or we have some people who are diagnosed with some diabetic issues or other heart conditions, and they need to get out and exercise. So we like to join up together, and I'll say, hey, let's go hike Kennesaw Mountain or do something fun like that. There's other times that I'll take youth groups out and do something more active and just kind of getting up and moving around, and it often frees people to start talking about what's going on in their lives when they feel more comfortable and more at ease. It is so important for me to get out there and be active. In fact, I do a great sermon brainstorming while I'm out doing long runs or swims or just at the gym, and I get to talk to people and get to meet them. And yeah, so it is very important, not just for my spirit, but for my body well-being. And my body is good, then I'm far more free to think about what's going on in the world.
Thanks so much, Aria. Now let's take a look at David Prince, triathlete, husband and father, Paralympian, and at one point, drug dealer. AIB met up with David Prince to talk about his incredible journey. AIB's Lindsay Harper has the story.
David Prince is a Georgia native, but spent several of his early years in Mexico with his family and missionary parents. After living in several states, his family finally settled in Georgia permanently. After only being in public school intermittently during his childhood, he was back full-time for his teenage years. The war on drugs is heavily targeted towards high schoolers, but David doesn't remember being told why he shouldn't do them. He only remembers hearing that they were illegal. Not knowing the dangers ahead, David began using. It didn't take long until drugs were commonplace and his motivation for anything beyond them was gone.
I was always a very rebellious child. I had to learn things the hard way. I was always very stubborn. And so getting into high school and experiencing being in an environment like that, in a public school, pretty much the first full-time public school that I'd been to. But I just got involved with the wrong people. I hadn't learned anything about drugs and alcohol. I didn't know, how devastating they could become. I mean, I'd always heard people say, oh yeah, well this is a gateway to this and that's a gateway to that. And I didn't really understand that whole concept.
The lack of motivation from his drug use caught up with him. At 16, his mother signed him out of school for the last time, and he was officially a high school dropout. This left him time to expand his drug dealing and money to burn.
I dropped out of school. She signed me out of school when she and my father split, and we were living in Douglasville. And I had started selling drugs. I was selling marijuana and ecstasy and LSD and anything I could get my hands on, pills, powder, anything. And just kind of woke up one morning and I'm not sure where I was going or what I was doing, but I drove by Metro Cycles. Bam, I owned a motorcycle. I didn't even know how to drive a motorcycle. I'd never been on a motorcycle a day in my life, and had to have my one of my buddies drive it home. He'd had a little bit of experience on a motorcycle, and so he drove it home, and I drove it around the block a couple of times before taking it out on I-20 and, you know, opening it up a little bit. And it was exhilarating. I mean, it was just so much fun, but did I plan to go buy a bike? No, it was completely random chance. I just kind of drove by it, saw it, stopped, and walked out owning one.
On March 14, 2002, just 5 days after buying his new motorcycle, David was involved in an accident that would change his life forever. In an ill-fated race with a Honda Civic, David's motorcycle reached speeds exceeding 140 miles per hour. An inexperienced rider, David crashed as he reached the top of a hill.
Ended up racing past Old 41, and there's a pretty sharp right-hand turn that goes a little bit uphill with a little bridge at the top of the hill. I wrecked right there. I seem to remember, memory it doesn't always serve me well, but I remember looking down at my speedometer and watching the needle edge past 150 or 140, one of those, and thinking I need to slow down. And started kind of going into that turn. I didn't know how to lean, I didn't know how to ride the motorcycle, and so I ended up just kind of going from the far right lane to the left lane, and then I hit the median and flipped, and ended up across the street, hitting the guardrail at 100 and some odd miles an hour, and it broke my leg off. It was, I don't know the specific distance it was from my body, but the motorcycle was, I want to say, 100 yards from my body at the top of the hill in the middle of the road, or on the shoulder.
This accident caused David multiple injuries, including the loss of his right leg below the knee. The magnitude of the change to his body didn't set in until he was out of the hospital and back home.
I guess it didn't really hit me. It didn't really sink in until the first night that I had gotten back to my house, had been released from the hospital. And my sister and a couple of friends and her boyfriend wanted to take me out to see a movie. And I, of course, was still, I mean, my leg was still wrapped up in 800 pounds of gauze, and, you know, I was just as doped up as could be, and was in a wheelchair, you know. So it was rough to go out and get all the stairs, and, you know, it kind of put me off a little bit. And then I got home and I just thought, you know what, this is just stupid. I'm not gonna sit in this stupid wheelchair. I'm not gonna use crutches. You know, I got one leg, so I'll just hop until I get a, you know, a prosthetic. And you know, I was very defiant. And that first night I slipped and fell, and I don't think I busted open any stitches or bled or anything like that, but it was excruciating because I landed directly on the distal end of my leg, and that's when I first really got mad. Not just mad at myself, but mad at God for allowing something like that to happen. And I didn't know why it had happened, and I didn't know what I was going to do, and I don't know, you know, I didn't know how the future was going to play out.
After several arrests and time in jail, David was at a crossroad. He was in school, but not on track to graduate. And after kicking him out of her home more than once, David's mother had had enough. She told him he had to clean up his act or move out for good.
So I was sitting on her porch that night. I didn't know what to do. I was lost, and was crying and upset and thinking about suicide and thinking about what are my options, what can I do. And I started to recognize that I had made the choices. I had done all these things to myself. I was the reason that I was sitting there without a leg. with a garbage bag full of clothes and belongings in front of me, about to not have a place to live. My grandmother didn't want me with her. My dad didn't want me with him. I couldn't stay with my sister and her boyfriend because I wouldn't be able to keep on going to school. They lived in another county, and so I started praying, and I said, God, I recognize that I have done this to myself. I recognize that I am at fault for this, and I hate it. I hate it. It's not somewhere where I want to be. And just started praying and asking for help. You know, Lord, help me figure out what I'm supposed to do. Help me, figure out where I'm supposed to go tomorrow and how I'm supposed to handle this situation. I just started feeling peace. I started asking God to give me peace about the situation and give me a better understanding of, what I was supposed to do and how I was supposed to handle things. And I literally sat out there for hours praying. And I recognized something that night.
After breaking the ties he had to drugs, he asked God to replace his addiction. His mother gave him her gym membership, and soon he was working out every day. It wasn't long before he discovered triathlons. With his time and mind occupied with something positive, he attempted to qualify for the 2008 Paralympic Games in Beijing. Although David narrowly missed this chance, it wasn't his last shot. David tells about his time in London and bringing home the bronze for the 400-meter and breaking a world record for unilateral amputees at the same time.
We walk into this stadium with 80,000 people, and it's just everybody screaming and shouting, and we go and set up, our blocks, and I walked out of my lane, I got down on my knee, and I prayed, God, carry me. You've gotten me this far. You've put me on this stage. You've opened so many doors that I can't even name them all. And just thank them for letting me get there. And whatever happened, whether I came in first place or 8th place, I was thankful to be there. And I knew what I needed to do. I knew how I needed to run, and I went out and I executed. And coming down that last straightaway, which is where I knew I would face the most pain, God carried me. That's the only way I can explain it, because when I crossed that line, and I thought, did I just come in 3rd place? I think I just came in third place, and my teammate came over to me. He's like, dude, I think you just came in 3rd place. I think you broke the world record too. I thought, no, there's no way. I don't think I came in 3rd place. Those guys were right there. I don't think, and looked up on the screen, and my teammate who had come in 2nd place right in front of me, he ran 50.14 seconds. And my teammate was like, no, man, you were right there with him. I think you broke the world record. And I looked up there, and my name popped up onto the screen, and 50.61 with a big WR next to it. So breaking the world record, coming in 3rd place, that was just surreal.
Wow, what an inspiring journey David's been on. And if you'd like to hear David's extended interview, you can view it on AIB Unscripted. Visit www.aibtv.com for more information. Next on SkyBox, AIB travels to Marietta to visit the Atlanta Curling Club for a game often referred to as chess on ice. We go to AIB's Andrew Warren for the story.
Jeff Williams, president of the Atlanta Curling Club, became enamored with curling in 2010 while watching the Vancouver Olympics with his son, Max. After the games had come to an end, they decided to start a club in Atlanta.
During the 2010 Vancouver Olympics, my son Maxwell and I were watching way too much curling on the TV. It's such a enthralling sport. It's so interesting. Finally, he came to me and he said, Dad, we just have to start Atlanta's first curling club. I'm like, okay, Max, how are we going to do that? So we started as a club on Facebook and Twitter and social media. We just started gathering together all the people that we could find in Atlanta that would be interested in starting a curling club. Before you know it, we had 400 followers in our Facebook group. And so after the Olympics were over and we became slightly more sane, we organized a meeting. We had 35 people show up live to the first meeting.
For many of the members, the only experience they had with curling was watching it on television.
I never curled. In fact, none of the first of us had ever curled. Our only experience was watching on TV, and we actually had to go out of state to watch people do it. And that was our first live experience, and they taught us a little bit. But even then, you know, we're kind of like the blind leading the blind, but we're having a good time anyways. It's so much fun to get out here.
There are several experienced curlers in the club. We spoke to veteran curler Maria Eswine about her start.
It's not. I've been curling for about 2 years now. We actually were playing games in college in Toledo, Ohio, and we would watch football on TV, and then after the end of the football season, we didn't have anything to watch. But since we were so close to Canada, they showed curling, and so we learned about it then. And then my husband and a couple of friends of ours, we went to the Vancouver Olympics, and we actually saw some curling there. And when we got back, at the time we were living in Raleigh, North Carolina, we found the team there and hooked up with them and got started curling ourselves.
For those of you who may not have caught the 2010 Olympic curling fever, Jeff Williams goes over the basics.
The reason it's called curling is because when you throw the stone, you put a little bit of a turn on it, either an in turn or an out turn. And the stone's going to go more or less straight the whole time it's going down the ice, except for when it slows down at the far end. That turn that you put on the stone determines whether what's going to happen is it's going to slow down, and one of the edges is going to dig in, and it's going to curl this way if it was an in turn, or that way if it was an out turn. The sweeping is done so to cause the stone to continue to go forward in a straight line and to not slow down. So you can't do it forever. Eventually the stone's going to slow down, even it doesn't matter how hard you sweep. But if you sweep it, it's going to continue to go straight.
Before you can begin, the ice must be properly treated by a process called pebbling.
Pebbling is done so that the stones will slide more smoothly over the ice. We use a can like this where it has water in it, and the pebbles spray out, little droplets of water spray out of this end of the hose. When the droplets of water hit the ice, they instantly freeze, and it causes a rough surface. But it's not rough exactly, it's just like little bumps all over the ice, and that's what the stones glide on top of.
Jeff explains how to curl.
You have the hack. The hack is a piece of aluminum that's frozen into the ice. It has two rubber pads that you can put one of your feet on to push off of. And when you do that, you're going to glide through the house on your end of the ice, and then you have to let go of the stone before you reach the hog line. The stone has to travel all the way down the ice past the other hog line and then hopefully land in the house that's on the far end. So a house is a set of circles, 12, 8, 4, and 1 foot circles. And the idea, of course, is to get closest to the 1 foot circle. Now, it has to land somewhere within those circles for it to be able to count at all. But the stone for the team that lands closest to the center, that indicates which team is going to score in that end. Only one team can score in an end. So if the red stone is closest to the center, but a blue stone's second closest to the center, only the red team is going to score.
An important position on every curling team is the skip, a kind of curling captain.
The skip is like the captain of the team. Most of the time he's down at the far end calling the shots. So he uses his broom as a target, showing where the person who's throwing the stone should be aiming for. A lot of times he's got to put the broom in a slightly different spot from where he actually wants the stone to land, either because the stone's going to curl or because there's an imperfection in the ice that's going to cause the stone to drift one way or another. So the skip's job really is to call the shots and also to tell the sweepers whether they should be sweeping or not sweeping. Sometimes you definitely don't want to sweep because there's enough weight, enough force on the stone that it's going to go too far.
If you ever find yourself at a curling game, you may notice some yelling.
Sometimes the sweepers need a little extra motivation, and so a lot of skips feel that yelling loudly helps motivate the sweepers to sweep harder. And I would have to agree with them.
There's an aspect to curling that is often underappreciated or altogether absent in other sports.
It's all about sportsmanship. An illegal move in curling is to hit the stone with your broom when you're sweeping. If you do that, it's called burning the stone, and what you do is you tell the skip of the other team. and the two skips, or the skip will say what needs to happen in order to correct the situation. A lot of times they'll say it doesn't matter, you know, or if you kick a stone that's already been setting there and it moves, then the teams just agree about where it was and they put it back. It's a very sportsmanlike sport, and the spirit of curling is one of cooperation. It's a highly competitive sport, but it's never about trash talk or about beating each other down. It's more about building each other up and just getting out on the ice and having a good time. People very often compliment each other on shots well made, even if they're not on the same team. And equally so, I have to say that people rib each other about pretty badly made shots as well.
Atlanta Curling Club's Director of Communication, Becky Kalman, tells us what she loves most about curling.
I love that curling is a sport where everyone is very friendly. It can be competitive at times, but people do tend to be less competitive than some other sports. But it has a great social aspect to it. After every time we play, we go and we hang out together, have a few drinks and snacks, and just discuss the game that was just played after every time. And that's really a good aspect, is just the fellowship that we have with curling.
If you're looking for a new sport to try, give curling a shot. Just listen to what these members had to say.
Come try it. Come try it. It's so much fun. You're gonna fall on your butt. Just be okay with that. We've all done it, and we're all okay with it. And everyone's so friendly, and is just out to have a great time. We have a bit of social time after each game, and it's really nice to get to know new people and socialize with them.
You have to give curling a try. It's a sport that you say, I wouldn't enjoy that. You know, that's fun to watch on the Olympics once every 4 years, but it's not for me, or I don't like the cold, I don't like ice. But once you get out here and you try it, there's nothing else like it. It's a sport that everyone can play and feel like they can play. Everyone may not be masters at it the first time they try, but everyone can play and everyone can enjoy it.
If you'd like to learn more about the Atlanta Curling Club, Jeff has all the information you need.
If you've ever wanted to try curling, you just need to come out and try it. You can always go to our website, atlcurling.org. All the information about upcoming events is always going to be posted there. If you ever forget our web address, you can go to Google search and do Atlanta Curling Club, and we should be the first hit on there as well. You just need to come out and try it. Even if you think it looks hard, I can teach you how to curl the basics in an hour. In an hour, you'll be a terrible curler. And then you just practice for the rest of your life and you get much better.
Certainly no question that the members of the Atlanta Curling Club really seem to enjoy what they do. Can you believe it? That's it for this edition of SkyBox. Be sure to join us next time for more interesting and inspiring stories from athletes of all kinds. Until next time, I'm Craig Corbin. We'll see you then.